Even if you put some respect on my name and say, listen, I fight anyone, I don't care. I'm always ready to go.
Moses, do you want to see Dillian carry on?
No, definitely not.
He's not got a future with any other heavyweight?
No, but you could see the shots, you know. I mean, Dillian's renowned for his toughness. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, I think he was, you know, those shots were cupping shots, but you could tell I think his punch resistance gone, and I think that'll be the end.
To Itauma, I mean, he knew that he can get him out, and he got him out straight away. I mean, I think no one expected it to finish that quick.
Speed kills, as you know.
Speed kills, and he had but not only the speed, he had the power with that, and the acumen.
Dillian Whyte has never lacked confidence. His career has been built on grit, bravado, and a fearless willingness to face some of the most dangerous names in heavyweight boxing. But after suffering the most humiliating defeat of his career, flattened in the very first round by teenage prodigy Moses Itauma, his latest move has left fans and pundits baffled. Instead of pausing to reflect on the brutal reality of what happened under the lights, Whyte has come storming back, demanding a rematch with the young powerhouse who turned him into a viral highlight reel. To casual fans, it might look like the defiance of a fighter with an unbreakable spirit, but to those who witnessed the demolition, it feels less like courage and more like denial. Whyte wasn't edged out on points. He wasn't caught cold by a lucky punch. He wasn't given any chance to work his way.
I'm a fighter, I know what to fight. He's had more amateur fights than me and all of this other you know. He's doing what he's meant to know. And one thing is, he's got the what's the word I'm looking for? The ignorance of
way into the fight, he was smashed, outclassed, outgunned, and dismantled in seconds. The referee's intervention saved him from a prolonged beating, but it couldn't save his reputation. For many, Moses Itauma didn't just beat Whyte, he exposed the harsh truth that his time at the elite level is finished. Yet here he is, shouting for another.
I think everyone's talking about, you know, Dillian having an injury, and I think Dave probably got wind of that and thought that we're just going to press early and see what we're given. And, you know, he was caught quite early on the back of the head and on the
other shot. If that wasn't frustrating enough, his brother Dillian Whyte quickly stepped in to defend him. Dean tried to reframe the humiliation, blaming injuries, unlucky timing, and even suggesting the knockout was a fluke. But fans aren't buying it.
When you look at your career at the end of your career, you'll look at your bank balance and say to yourself, you know what, it was worth it. Dillian Whyte can look at his bank balance and say, last night's fight was worth it. Did he do it for the money? He probably did. You know, Moses Itauma is a huge name, and it would have been a massive scalp to have had, but it was never going to.
Reality is clear. Moses didn't need luck. He bulldozed through Whyte because the gulf in class, sharpness, and hunger was simply too wide. The excuses only made things worse, painting Whyte as a man unwilling to accept reality. This wasn't ring rust. It wasn't small mistakes. It was one fighter on the rise.
No one expected it to finish that quick.
Speed kills, as you know.
Speed kills, and he had but not only the speed, he had the power with that, and the accuracy was on point. I mean, I didn't think it was gonna. I mean, I thought it'd be the opposite, where Dillian might win the first couple of rounds with his power, but I think it just shows how strong Itauma is and how powerful he is. He's a big threat
against another spiraling into decline. Former world champion Duke McKenzie didn't hold back. He dismissed Whyte's rematch demands as nothing more than a desperate cash grab. This isn't about revenge. McKenzie said, it's about one last payday. Brutal words, but they cut to the heart of what most fans already believe. Itauma didn't even have to break a sweat. Whyte wasn't a test, he was easy money, and once a fighter is seen as easy work, their career as a genuine contender is over. Amir Khan, a man who knows the pain of being undone by speed and power, added salt to the wound. Before Whyte could even blink, Moses had him out of there. Khan remarked, that wasn't an accident. That was a young, hungry fighter proving that experience means nothing when your opponent is too fast and too powerful. Khan's assessment was damning, especially.
It's way too much for him, and it's going to be, you know, quite a nasty ending for him, a nasty ending to a career. I was worried for Dillian going into that this would be that fight, and it was. I mean, that you don't get as you know, it can't be any worse than that to punctuate a career, to end a career.
Given the pre-fight narrative that Whyte's experience and toughness might trouble the teenager. Instead, Itauma made him look old, slow, and vulnerable. Whyte's refusal to accept that reality may keep his name in headlines, but it won't change the truth. His days as a feared heavyweight are gone. Dillian Whyte's experience was supposed to give him an edge. Instead, that supposed advantage was ripped apart in seconds. The knockout wasn't a fluke, it was a warning sign, loud and brutal, that Whyte's days of competing at the top level are over. Trainer Dave Coldwell didn't sugarcoat it. He wasn't polite, he wasn't cautious, he was ruthless. Coldwell didn't just say Whyte lost, he said the fight ended him physically, mentally, and professionally. This wasn't a contest, he declared. It was a demolition. In his eyes, this wasn't one bad night that could be corrected with adjustments. This was the kind of loss that leaves scars no fighter ever fully recovers from. Whyte's insistence on shouting for a rematch isn't bravery.
Came in here, being knocked out a couple times, wanted to see could he land a punch on this young kid, but he didn't have a chance tonight. He got mowed over, and this is a big win for a young guy. But he got to continue to fight credible opponents, and he got to get tested. He got to fight a young fighter like himself and beat a credible opponent like that, not these old, washed-up fighters that he can only...
Coldwell argued, it's delusion. His words struck a chord because they echoed what so many in the boxing world already believe. There are defeats you bounce back from, and there are defeats that mark the end. For Coldwell, Whyte's collapse against Moses Itauma was the latter, a brutal punctuation mark at the end of a once-respected career. Former light heavyweight champion Antonio Tarver went even further. He didn't just dismiss Whyte, he ridiculed him. Whyte couldn't even land properly on Moses, Tarver said. He got mauled like an amateur. A rematch? That's pure comedy. Tarver's words captured exactly what fans already think. Moses doesn't need rematches with fighters in decline. He needs real challenges. To the new generation, Whyte is no longer a test. He's a stepping stone. And for a man who once fought tooth and nail to prove he
wanted to continue, the referee, of course, called it off. Do you feel that that was the right call for that to happen?
Oh, I think, yes, without a doubt, definitely. He made the right call. I think that Dill should have stayed down and taken the 8 count, then got up. But he bounced right back up. And his equilibrium was still off. And I told him, I said, you couldn't stand up straight. The referee could not let you go out.
In terms of Dillian's future, I think he said on social media that he won't make any rash decisions, but maybe looks to want to continue. Do you feel the same way that Dillian
belonged among the elite? That's the harshest humiliation of all, to be dismissed not as dangerous, not even as relevant, but as obsolete. Respected trainer Buddy McGirt piled on. He didn't talk about bad luck or unlucky timing. He spoke about survival. Whyte wasn't unlucky, McGirt explained. He was saved. His legs were gone, his head scrambled, and the referee's stoppage was merciful. If that fight continued, McGirt said, Moses would have finished him in even uglier fashion. His assessment turned Whyte's rematch demands into farce. How can a fighter who was spared worse punishment believe he's ready to reverse the result? The stoppage wasn't controversial, it was compassionate. Trainer Mark Tibbs, who has known Whyte for years, was blunt in his own way. He credited Whyte for showing up in shape, but he also pointed to the unavoidable truth. The body is breaking down. He's in his twilight years, Tibbs said. The body can't keep up anymore. Moses exposed that reality.
I thought Dillian shaped up well. I thought he was in fantastic nick. But when you're at your twilight years and you're working on your weight, etc., it's taxing. It's taxing on yourself, and I'm pretty sure.
In one round, fans saw it with their own eyes. For Tibbs, Whyte's rematch talk isn't inspirational, it's embarrassing. Even Derek Chisora, Whyte's longtime rival and one-time friend, admitted the obvious. This wasn't the ending anyone wanted, Chisora said. His tone uncharacteristically somber, but he conceded that the moment Moses landed clean, it was over. Chisora tried to soften the blow, suggesting southpaw inexperience might have played a role, but even he couldn't avoid the reality. This wasn't about stance. It was about speed, sharpness, and ruthlessness. Moses was simply too much. When even your fiercest rival looks at you with pity, it's a sign the end has arrived. Perhaps the most humiliating voice of all came from Eddie Hearn, the promoter who once built Whyte into a headline attraction. Hearn didn't dance around the subject. It wasn't just a bad start.
Hey, listen, he got caught the head on the temple, and then after that, it was a long night for him. I'm a bit sad because I didn't want him to go out like that.
Hearn admitted, at 38 years old, after years out of the ring, to get knocked out like that, it's time to retire. When your own promoter is urging retirement, it's almost tragic to hear you still demanding a rematch, and Hearn's shift in focus was telling. He no longer talks about YT's future, he talks about Moses's future, about Alexander Usyk, about titles, about real fights that shape the division. YT, once part of those conversations, is now irrelevant to them. For a proud fighter, that's the ultimate humiliation, to be erased not just by defeat but by silence. Spencer Brown summed up the reality with brutal simplicity. "I don't even know what version of Dillian showed up," he said, "but whatever it wasn't a top 10 fighter. Moses shredded him with speed, power, and accuracy. He's finished at this level." Those words cut deeper than any punch. This wasn't just about losing, it was,
mojo from Dillian. But listen, it's very difficult when you're 38 years old. You've been out of the ring for a couple of years and you've just had that Tete fight, and you fight a brilliant young sharp fighter. We said that, unless he gets into the fight, it's going to be a disastrous start for him, and it was more than a disastrous start.
Would you want to see Dillian retire?
Yeah, 100%.
What next for Moses? Because they were talking about Usyk.
I wanted to see him in with a live, active heavyweight, because he's definitely
about being erased. Moses Itauma didn't simply beat Dillian Whyte, he stripped him of his standing in the sport. And yet here we are. Whyte, fresh off the most humiliating defeat of his career, still screaming for a rematch. The problem is simple. Everyone else has moved on. Fans, pundits, rivals, even his own promoter, all have admitted what Whyte refuses to say. His time is up. This isn't about unfinished business. It isn't about revenge. It's about pride, denial, and the inability to face the truth that a teenager destroyed him in seconds. Let's be honest. Whyte isn't suddenly going to discover youth. He isn't going to regain the reflexes, the speed, or the chin that once carried him through wars. He isn't going to undo years of wear and decline in a few months. Meanwhile, Moses is only getting sharper, stronger.
In Dillian, all week he looks a bit weak to me. I don't know if you saw him, but look, you've got to take your hat off to him. He beat a seasoned top 10 fighter, or he was a top 10 fighter, and he's such a nice kid. He's got every attribute you could want, and he hurts and knocks people out. Speed kill.
And hungrier. Every session in the gym, every fight under the bright lights, he grows. The gap between them isn't closing, it's widening. At this stage, the story